All right, welcome everybody to SOMO at Home for August 10th. We'll get started with the actual session just here in a second, but I want to take the time to kind of thank our sponsors, as we've been doing over the last couple of months, who've been making this possible, this programming possible for you all. That includes P&G Manufacturing, Siemens PLM, P&G Paper Products, Kirksville Motor Company, Hy-Vee of St. Joe, Sertoma Club of St. Joe, General Mills, J.W. Terrell, and Concrete Strategies. So for today's session, I'm going to hand it over to Pam.
Hi, everybody. These are really weird times we're living in. But one of the things that's really cool is people are still hiring. And so they're reaching out to people in the community to apply for jobs. And it's a little different to interview on Zoom. So I kind of wanted to talk to you today a little bit about how to handle a Zoom interview. And I know a lot of you have interviewed in person, and it's really not that different. You're going to be talking one-on-one with someone. And the best news is you've already accomplished a lot. You know why? If they're interested enough in you to do a Zoom interview, then they have already looked at your paperwork and thought, you're pretty cool. So you're already head and shoulders above a lot of the other applicants because they wanted to talk to you. And I want you to take a second and think about how cool that is. It's pretty cool. So one of the first things I kind of want to talk to you about are some of the basics of Zoom. That's just laundry. So now that I'm talking to you on Zoom, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, maybe it's not a good idea to set myself up someplace for Zoom where there's laundry, right? So instead of going into someone's office, you're inviting them into your home and you want to make a good impression. So not only are they going to be looking at your clothes and your hair, have you combed your hair, but they're looking at what's behind you. So I'm thinking if I were interviewing for a job and they saw laundry, they might not think I'm going to be professional enough. So let me just take this down. Oh my goodness, what a big mistake that was. So now let's look at the room where I'm sitting, and I'm in my kitchen. I'm not in my bedroom. I don't have anything behind me that is too personal. You can see coffee mugs, but it's a clean wall and there's not anything hanging on it silly like a poster. It's pretty professional looking. So what I want you to think about before you even have a Zoom interview or a dog that barks is where is a good place for me to be so that I shine and they're not looking at what's behind me. The next thing I want you to think about is you've dressed up and you look nice, but are you too close to the screen or too far from the screen? So if the screen is all the way here and they're looking at you, I mean, that's okay. But I think somewhere in between. So if you put your arms straight out and you touch your computer or your cell phone, if that's what you're using, then that's probably a good distance. Any closer than that, and you're pretty close, there aren't going to be a lot of secrets. So what I recommend is that you put your computer out a little bit, so just enough of the background shows, and it's all you, and just a little bit of the background. The other thing I want you to think about is noise. Now see, I'm in my kitchen today. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have dogs, and they're letting me know they're here. So when you're interviewing, don't be afraid. If that happens, don't be embarrassed. Just be honest. Say to the interviewer, I have a dog, and he wants you to hire me. Smile, and it's okay. Because I bet the interviewer is interviewing you from his living room or his kitchen or her kitchen. And so they know what it's like. but it's okay. Just remember to breathe. One of the other things I want to talk about is what should you wear for an interview on Zoom? I mean, it's pretty easy to pick when you're going in person, but let's be honest, who here has spent a lot of time in pajama pants? Yeah. This time of COVID, when a lot of us are at home, we may not have been dressing up as much. And it's okay not to wear a dress if you're a girl and not to wear a suit and a tie if you're a boy. If you wear something nice and clean, and maybe do your makeup if you're a girl, or comb your hair, and just be ready. And remember that you want to appear professional. So that means even though my favorite shirts say SOMO or Special Olympics or North Stars, I'm probably going to wear something like this because I want them to think, okay, she can dress and be in any kind of environment and fit in. Another thing that I want you to think about is something that's called a pause. Now, when you're getting interviewed, sometimes the interviewer has a list, and the interviewer is looking at the list to make sure that they're asking the questions that they need answered. Sometimes they're writing your answers down, and sometimes they're typing your answers at the same time. So if your interviewer stops talking for a second, you don't have to fill that space. You can let that space be. Take a breath, smile, and wait. Pausing is good. It means you've given an answer that they want to write down. So that's a positive thing. Another thing that I want you to remember is it's okay for you to pause because you're thinking. So if they ask you a question and you need a hot minute to think about your answer, that's okay too. You don't have to rush. Sometimes when we're nervous, we rush too much. So what I want you to do is if someone asks you a question and you're going to think about it for a second, then do this. And if you need to, you can even say, just a moment, please, or just a sec, and give yourself a minute to think about your answer. I promise the person interviewing you would rather you take your time and answer in a good way that you feel good about. Instead of rushing into an answer, it's not really the right one. Some of the things you might think about, and this is even if you go in person for an interview, is that you may want to do a little research. Look at the company that you're applying for a job for. If the company is Target or a big store and there's a lot of different jobs and you look at the one that they're hiring for, sometimes you have to be willing to take a different job to work yourself to that. So do some research into the company. Like, why would you want to work for McDonald's? Why would you want to work for Target? Why would you want to work for a bank? Why would you want to work for a school district? What is it about that organization that you're interested in? Do some research. That's where Google comes in. You can Google a company and find some information out. And that's good because if they ask you, why would you want to work for us? You can take a pause and you can say, I looked you up and you treat your people well. I looked you up and I like the way you do business. I looked you up and people like your company. That shows the person who's interviewing you that you're interested enough to find out about them, the same way that they're interested enough to find out about you. That's pretty cool. Another thing I'm going to remind you of, you're going to think this is silly, to breathe. Sometimes when we get nervous and we're thinking really hard or we're really worried about how we look, we actually forget to breathe. I don't want you to do that. I want you to take a second and go. But you can do it subtly, like take a deep breath, fill those lungs, sit up straight, and be proud because you've made it past that whole first thing where they had to look at your resume or your application. They might have even checked some of your references. You've made it pretty far. Now, I want you to think about some questions that they might ask you, so you might have some answers. It helps a little bit to prepare. I like to help the students in my class and some of my friends prepare by doing flashcards where I write a question on one side and an answer on the other just to practice. I don't have anything to demonstrate because I'm at home, but I do have a list. Guess what? I don't have a printer. So one of the questions they might ask you is, what are your hobbies? And I want you to think for just a second. I'm going to let you think. How many people said Special Olympics? Right? What an incredible hobby that is. That's like the best hobby. It also fits a lot of the other categories of the questions they might ask. Because Special Olympics gives you skills you can't get anywhere else. So you're coming to this cool interview with all these experiences and all these skills. And one of the ways you get them is by participating in Special Olympics. And I think that's cool. So they might ask, what is your experience? So let's say that you've done some other jobs. You've had another job. This is where you get to talk about the things you liked about the other job. Please don't take this opportunity to tell them how you didn't like it or who you didn't like. Take this opportunity to tell them what you learned. So one of my first jobs was bagging bagels. It's true. I stood at a counter and I took bagels out of a basket and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I spun the bag and I put it on an automatic tie that put a tie on it, and then I put it into a basket. Now, I could complain about it because it was a hot job. It didn't have air conditioning and I worked for the summer. But what did I learn from that job? Well, I certainly learned how to stand on my feet and work. I learned how to wear a uniform and get my uniform clean by the next day. I learned how to laugh when things went wrong because I knew sometimes things went wrong. And I also learned how to say, I don't know how to do something. Can you please show me? Those are the things I want to talk about that job. And what are the things you got from one of your jobs? Even if it wasn't a paying job. Have you volunteered? What did you learn there? The next question might be, and this is a really often asked question, are you a team player? What does that mean even? They might be asking you if you can work with other people well. Okay. Who here just went straight to Special Olympics, right? What do we learn in Special Olympics? We learn how to be a part of a team. We learn, especially during basketball, that sometimes you have to pass the ball off to score. Or during bocce, you want to root for your teammates. Or how to be a part of an organization where you care about other people and you help to make them successful. Oh my gosh. If I were an employer and I wanted someone who could work with other people, I would think that was awesome. One of the questions I hear a lot is, will you wear a uniform? And I know some of us have problems with clothing that people give us. There might be a tag that bothers us. We might find it hot. And so I want you to be honest. I want you to say, yes, I will wear a uniform, or sometimes I have a hard time with tags because some people have sensitivity to that. Be honest and say, I can make that work. Because remember, if you get a uniform and it's not comfortable for you, you can ask if you can bring it home and launder it, and then you can put whatever you want into the water to make it work better for you. But be honest. Say, yeah, Because what is the best part of being a member of a team, of a Special Olympic team? It's the daggone uniform, you guys. It's wearing that cool basketball jersey or wearing the baseball shirt. That's the cool part. So yeah, if you've been in Special Olympics, you can wear a uniform. And if you find out that there's a tag that you don't like, then you say, I can make that work. And they'll appreciate that. One of my favorite questions that I hear from people when they're interviewing other people is, why do you want this job? Oh my goodness. Well, why do you want that job? Is it because it's something you've always wanted to do? Have you always wanted to work retail? Have you always wanted to work at a store and work with clothes? Have you always wanted to work at McDonald's and work the cash register? Those are things that you need to bring up then, because you've already looked into the company and you know what they do. And what are you bringing to the table? What are you offering them that makes you the perfect employee? So I remember once I was interviewed for something and they asked me what I wanted to do. And I said I wanted to be the boss. Well, I was never the boss. But I think that the person who hired me thought it was cool that I wanted to go further in a company. So don't be afraid to say that you want to do more, that you see this as a beginning job for you, that you want to learn more skills. Because one of the very first things they're going to ask you is, and this is going to be backwards to you guys, I love to learn new things. That's something that you can say. I would like to work here for your company because I love to learn new things. Everybody loves to learn a new skill, something that you maybe haven't done before. And also, if what you like to do is work independently, not with other people, and the job is that, you work in a file room and you take care of files quietly by yourself, then say that's what you like about it. They want to know the truth. They want to know how you work best so that they can find the best spot for you. Another thing I want you to remember is that you want to assure them that you work hard. I'm a hard worker. Guess who else where you work hard? Special Olympics. There are parts of your amazing skill set that you've learned at Special Olympics that you aren't going to learn from anywhere else. And so if they ask you, will you work hard? You can say, I started out playing 3-on-3 basketball and I worked all the way up to doing full court. Or I was one of the people on the bocce team and we got gold. Or I started out not knowing how to swim at all and I got a silver. Those kinds of things prove that you are a hard worker. What kind of stuff do you do to help out at home is another question. Do you take care of the animals? Do you take your dogs for walks? Do you help cook? These are also questions you can kind of think about so that when they ask you, you kind of have an answer in your back pocket. What I want you to remember when you're thinking about interviewing, not just on Zoom, because we're going to remember no dirty laundry, but also in person, that you are awesome. And you've already made them interested enough in you that they want to talk to you personally. So you've already won. You may not get the job, but you've won. And that means you're going to be successful. Be patient. Remember, not everybody gets the first job they try for. And sometimes we try a lot before we find the perfect job. But every single time you interview, you're getting better and better and better at it, just like sports. So I want to have everybody take a second and think about how cool it is that you would get far enough to have a Zoom interview. And let's review some of the things that we talked about. Okay, we're going to make sure that our room where we have a Zoom interview is a good room and not our bedrooms, and no place with funny posters. We're going to remember that if our dogs bark or something happens unexpectedly, that we are going to just roll with it. because the person who's interviewing you has probably been in the same situation. We're going to remember to breathe. We're going to remember to dress nicely and appropriately. And we're also going to remember to do a little research on the company you're interviewing with, so that if they ask you a question, maybe you can ask them a question. So I'm interviewing to be in charge of the changing room at Target. Will I someday be able to work at the cash register? Do your research. Be ready. Another thing I want you to remember is not to get too close to the screen. About halfway, like we are right now. And remember that you are coming to them because they're interested in you, but you're interested in them too. So you want to let them know that you are bringing something to the table, that you are pretty awesome. I want to also remind everybody that when you are interviewing for something, be confident, but also remember that you have to be humble and be willing to ask questions. And also, if they ask you, what if you do something wrong and you get corrected? What happens when the coach corrects you? You learn a new skill. So remember, when you're interviewing, you're awesome. You've already gotten a foot in the door. And every time you interview, you learn new skills. And I believe that you're going to do great. That's it for today. If you guys have any questions, you can shoot them my way. I'd be happy to help.
I don't see any questions right now.
Okay.
Let me give it a couple more seconds here. Let me refresh the page. Lena and Elizabeth both say hello.
Hi, guys.
I don't see any other questions, but if anybody has questions after the fact, just go ahead and just type them in the chat or type them in the comment section for the Facebook post, and Coach Pam can get on there at any other point throughout the rest of the week and answer those questions that you may have. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Coach Pam for doing another session for us, and we'll check everybody out later. Take care.